PSG line up huge €70 million move for Barcelona star. The special one is back. Jose Mourinho takes over at Benfica. Messi finally reveals where he wants to end his career. And the answer will surprise you. Liverpool launch hunt for Barca's star defender. All that and loads more in today's episode. If this video hits 350 likes, I'll sit down straight away and start working on the next one. Let's jump into the latest transfer rumors. Jose Mourinho is back in Portugal. It's now official. He has a verbal agreement with Benfica until 2027, and all the insiders are confirming it. The special one's return has happened. Fabrizio Romano has dropped his signature. Here we go. So all that's left is the paperwork and the club's announcement, which by all accounts will happen very soon. Perhaps by the time you're watching this, he's already been unveiled as the new manager. History is, of course, repeating itself here. Jose first took charge of Benfica way back in the 2000 season. That was just the start of his coaching journey. 10 matches, 5 wins, 3 draws, and 2 losses. It doesn't seem like much, but it was all cut short for purely political reasons. The club got a new president, and the new man in charge wanted someone else. That was it. The story ended there, and now, almost a quarter of a century later, Mourinho returns to Lisbon. This time as a global legend, with Champions League titles for Porto and Inter, and league wins in England, Spain, and Italy. Speaking of cycles, I've got one of my own that I can't seem to break. You regularly watch my videos, and I regularly see that you're still not subscribed. Let's complete this circle as neatly as Jose has with Benfica. All it takes is one click from you, and I'll keep the new stories coming. Your own personal "Here we go" is waiting just below this video. Interestingly, that circle was literally completed just the other day. Last month, Mourinho was sacked by Fenerbahce. He was dismissed just 19 days before this new agreement, and the reason wasn't so much the results, but the drama. Jose openly blamed the Turkish club's board for a failed transfer window. They didn't sign the players he demanded, leading to a Champions League qualifying defeat against, you guessed it, Benfica. Fenerbahce dropped into the Europa League, and Mourinho was left without a job. The irony is, just a few weeks later, he's taking over the very team that knocked him out. Benfica made their move after a shock home defeat to Qarabağ in the Champions League. That result cost Bruno Lage his job, and the board didn't waste any time. They needed a big name, someone with charisma who could command the dressing room and the fans. And who fits that description better than Mourinho? Especially since his name was already being mentioned in the election campaign of one of the candidates for club president. Yes, elections are on the horizon again, and the political subtext is still there. But this time, Jose is in a much stronger position. His legendary status demands it. The contract is set to run until 2027, and the fans are already buzzing with anticipation, because they won't have to wait long for his first big match. Mourinho's debut in the Benfica dugout in the Champions League is scheduled for the 30th of September against Chelsea. It will be an emotional return to Stamford Bridge, the ground where he once built an iconic team and made his name in English football. All the cameras will be on him. Of course, some will say his peak is long behind him, that he hasn't had any major achievements since his Conference League win with Roma in 2022. But Mourinho has something that's valued in football just as much as tactics: the ability to win cup ties and manage emotions. He can still create an aura around a team that turns ordinary games into major events. That's why Benfica decided to take the risk, and that's why the fans will fall in love with Jose all over again. So yes, after a quarter of a century, a new chapter begins. Mourinho is back at Benfica, and it looks like we're in for one hell of a show. Lionel Messi is staying put at Inter Miami. It looks like the Argentine is all set to sign a new, multi-year deal with the MLS club and shut down any rumors about his future. His current deal runs out at the end of the 2025 season, but Miami want to lock him down early, and according to ESPN, they're basically on the same page. Messi's move to the States in 2023 was one of the biggest things to ever happen in football. David Beckham himself got him over the line, and Messi instantly showed he wasn't just there for a long holiday. Straight away, he dragged the Herons to their first ever major trophy, the League's Cup. Then in 2024, he smashed the MLS regular season scoring record, won the Supporters' Shield, and got the MVP award. He turned the club from a bit of a hype job into a proper force in the league. Of course, with all that success, everyone kept wondering what was next. The media was constantly linking him to Saudi Arabia to join Cristiano Ronaldo, or back home to Newell's Old Boys. But it looks like for now, he's choosing to stay settled. The word is, once the final bits are sorted, the paperwork will be sent off to the MLS for the final rubber stamp. We're talking about a deal that would tie Messi to Inter Miami for at least 2 more seasons, maybe even until 2028. That means the 38-year-old will be in that pink kit right through the 2026 World Cup and beyond. It fits perfectly with the club's plans. Their new stadium, Miami Freedom Park, is opening next year. And let's be real, they need Messi as their poster boy and the face of the whole operation. Remember, he first signed a 2.5-year contract back in 2023. That deal was worth a massive $130 to $150 million. Plus, it had a clause giving him a slice of the club's ownership when he hangs up his boots. Now, that's getting extended, meaning the legend is guaranteed to be an MLS player for the biggest event in US football history, a home World Cup. For the league, this is huge. Messi is a brand, a magnet. He's pulled in millions of new fans and pushed MLS to another level. No wonder they're being so careful with this contract. An official announcement is expected in the next couple of weeks. And if it all goes smoothly, we'll have our answer. Messi is going to end his career at Inter Miami. Ronald Araujo is making headlines again, and not because he played a blinder or pulled off a last-minute rescue for Barcelona. Nope, this is way juicier. The lad might be on the move. And we're talking Premier League, specifically Liverpool. While they're all scratching their heads in Catalonia over who's the main man at the back, who's the cover, and what Hansi Flick actually wants, in England, they've got it all sorted, down to the last detail. It's their plan B to save the defense if Ibrahima Konate decides to bolt. And the replacement is ready to go. Araujo. Fichajes dropped the news first. They reckon Liverpool are more interested than ever in Ronald. The reason is dead simple. Konate could be off to Real Madrid. On a free, no less. It's a classic. Club stalls on a new deal, player starts chatting to Madrid. Come January 1st, the Frenchman can legally sign a pre-contract. And rumor has it, Real are happy to splash 40 million euros this winter to get him early. Basically, Liverpool need to act fast. Meanwhile, Araujo seems to be completely sick of it. Sure, the Uruguayan started the first 2 La Liga matches, but then he was benched for the next 2. It's not an injury. Flick just has other ideas for his starting lineup. Ronald is caught in no man's land. He's on the team sheet, but he's not a guaranteed starter anymore. Reports say his people are already looking at a transfer as a career-saving option. He's at the perfect age, 26. He was immense under Javi and could absolutely smash it in another league, especially the Prem. Power, pace, a beast in the air. He's got Liverpool written all over him. No wonder Arne Slot and his team are picking apart Araujo's contract right now. The asking price? $50 million, not nothing, but not crazy. If Konate really leaves for $40 million, the extra cash is peanuts, especially with Van Dijk turning 35 next summer. The Italians have thrown their hat in the ring. Tutto Juve claims Juventus are sniffing around too. But let's be real, the old lady can't get this deal done faster than Liverpool. They don't have the cash or the speed. Plus, word on the street is Araujo would much rather a move to the Prem than to the depressive state of affairs in Turin. A few interesting contract details have surfaced. Apparently, his deal with Barca is a bit tricky, but with the club in a mess and the player not wanting to warm the bench, a deal seems very much on the cards. In Catalonia, he's no longer seen as the rock of their defense. On Merseyside, he is. Let that sink in. Alright guys, don't just watch and leave. Your reaction really helps the channel. Smash the like or dislike button right now. Drop a comment, we'd really appreciate it. And all this is happening while Barca's backline is in as much chaos as their bank accounts. One game it's Christensen, next it's Cubarsí, then they just chuck Araujo in there. The whole defense looks like someone hit randomize on a spreadsheet. Obviously, Araujo, who was seen as unbeatable a few years back, isn't happy. And here's the bottom line. Araujo is a prime candidate to replace Konate. If Real Madrid really do pinch the Frenchman, Ronald's move to Anfield isn't a question of if, but when. We're keeping a very close eye on this, because this isn't just another transfer. It could be the start of a new defensive dynasty at Liverpool. Endrick finds himself in a very awkward position. The young forward arrived in Madrid with huge expectations, but it's already clear that the competition at Real is just too intense, and he's rarely getting on the pitch. That's why reports about a potential loan move are appearing more and more in the Spanish press. The options are simple and straightforward: Valencia or Celta. For a player of his caliber, it would be a step down, but it would give him a chance to get regular game time. And for Endrick, that's crucial. The lad is afraid of missing the World Cup, and without minutes on the field, getting a call-up to the Brazil squad is simply impossible. He himself admits that he dreams not only of making it to the tournament, but of helping his country win a 6th title. The problem is, in his current situation, that sounds overly ambitious. At Real Madrid, even Rodrigo can't always break into the starting 11, and Endrick, for all his talent, is currently just a backup option. Plus, injuries have disrupted his rhythm and prevented him from developing as he would have liked. Another important point is the player's value. He was once valued at 60 million euros, but now, his transfer fee has dropped by almost half to 35 million. And the trend is clearly negative. The less he plays, the more his value will fall. In the eyes of Europe's top clubs, he risks becoming another case of potential without fulfillment. That's why a loan seems like the best solution. For Real, it's a chance to protect their asset and let the player develop. For Endrick himself, it's an opportunity to prove to everyone that he's truly worth the money spent on him. Where he goes is a secondary issue. Both Valencia and Celta can give him what he doesn't have in Madrid, a stable place in the starting lineup. Of course, he could continue to sit on the bench, wait for rare chances and hope for a miracle. But the World Cup is not far off, and there's simply no time to waste. If Endrick really wants to be part of the national team, he needs to be playing here and now. And in this situation, even a loan to a club with far lesser ambitions looks like a logical step. You can't help but feel for the lad. He has the talent, no question about it. But the reality of football is that without regular matches, talent quickly fades. And this whole story shows once again how difficult it is for young stars at Real Madrid. Sometimes it's far more beneficial to move to a less prestigious club and become a key figure there than to wait years for your chance at the Santiago Bernabeu. The final decision now rests with the player and the Real Madrid board. But the longer this situation drags on, the harder it will be for Endrick to make it to that World Cup he dreams of. Dani Olmo could be leaving Barcelona. And I don't mean sometime down the line, I mean in the next few months. The Spanish press is saying PSG are seriously in for the Spaniard, and it's Luis Enrique who's pushing for the deal. The PSG gaffer knows him inside out from the national team and is convinced he's exactly what they need at the Parc des Princes. So, here's the lowdown from Spain. Barca are apparently ready to sell, but only if the offer is over 70 million euros. Why? Because the club is still in a massive financial hole. Selling Olmo would sort two problems at once. It brings in some much-needed cash and gets a big salary off the books, especially now that Hansi Flick is giving more and more game time to Fermin Lopez, who's basically nicked Olmo's spot. On paper, Olmo was meant to be a star player for Barca. They got him from RB Leipzig in August 2024, and his first season was pretty decent. 43 games, 12 goals, 8 assists. But this season, just 1 assist in 4 matches and a lot more time warming the bench. Chuck in the injuries that have slowed him down, and things are looking pretty grim. And PSG are ready to pounce. Enrique is certain Olmo can bring that creative spark and flexibility to his attack. They've got plenty of forwards in Paris, but the manager wants a midfielder who can knit the play together and step up when it matters. And here's a key bit of info. His agent, Andy Berra, has already had a sit-down with Deco, Barca's sporting director. It was off the record, but they were talking about the player's future. That's a massive hint. Barca are open for business, and they know they can make some good money on Olmo. Speaking of hints, let me be the sporting director of this channel for a second. The numbers show a lot of you are basically free agents. You watch every game, every video, but you haven't signed on the dotted line. Come on, let's sort that out. Hitting subscribe gets you in the starting 11, and it's totally free. Don't be like Olmo, stuck in no man's land. Sources in France are saying they might try to get this deal done in January. PSG know that the longer Olmo sits on the bench, the more leverage they have to lower the price. Barca wants 70 million, sure, but PSG reckon they can get him for less, knowing he's not first choice. There's also some interest from the Premier League, but let's be real, PSG are in pole position. They've got the cash and a manager who's dead set on signing him. For Barca, this is a win-win. It helps their finances and cements Fermin's place in the team. For PSG, it's a chance to plug a hole in their midfield. And for Olmo, it's a chance to hit the reset button on a career that's starting to stall in Catalonia. But the big question is, will PSG's Qatari owners actually stump up 70 million for a player who isn't a guaranteed starter for Barca? Or will they find a compromise? One thing's for sure, the Dani Olmo saga is far from over. And what started as whispers in the Spanish media could very well become the big transfer story of the winter.